Good evening and a very warm welcome back to the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship powered by Grid Finder. It is round 5 of the championship. We are at Brands Hatch racing on the Indy layout with the Locost Championship being the 5th different car track combination of the 750 Motor Club that is being represented as part of this championship. So far we've had absolutely thrilling action in the first 4 rounds of the series. We're just over the halfway mark, and it's turning into a 2-horse race at the head of the championship. But let's take a look at what is happening tonight. The car's currently out there for free practice. We'll shortly be joining them for qualifying, which will set the grid for the 3 15-minute races that will take place tonight. The Locost Championship, the Ford Crossflow engined 7-type machines, the designs for which you can find in Ron Champion's How to Build Your Own Sports Car, a book that has caused quite a bit of inspiration for a few 750 Motor Club series. If you want to find out more about that, then head over to the website 750mc.co.uk. But tonight we have a championship battle to continue. Up until the last meeting with the Clios at Thruxton, it had all been about Jake Hewlett, who had won all 9 races in the first 3 rounds of the championship in the 5 Club Racing MX5 Cup at Anglesey, in the Calm All Porsche Trophy at Alton Park, and then the F1000s on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit as well. But dramas befell the championship leader at Thruxton when we raced with the Clios, the only time we've driven the front-wheel drive machinery all season long and the only time we will. But Hewlett's computer would not start for the event, and so he had to join us just for the start of race 2, and ended up getting into quite a bit of incidents as well. Managed to bag a decent result in race 3, just snatched a podium finish at the 11th hour, and that has just about kept him in the championship lead by 2 points to Trafford King, who ended up making it 3 back-to-back wins at Thruxton, looking like the Trafford King of the first season of the 750 Motor Club Winter Sim Championship, where he, of course, was an absolutely dominant force on his way to the title. The prizes up for grabs from VRS, of course, the Pro Formula steering wheel that will go to the champion, and 2 light steering wheels for whoever comes in 2nd and 3rd. As well as that, we have random draws for anyone outside of the top 3. 3 annual subscriptions for the VRS competitive plan. That's $120 each. And also 3 annual subscriptions to Team VRS group coaching as well. That's $100 each to further develop the skills behind the wheel of the drivers who are taking part in this championship. We have a combination of sim racers and real-world racers from the various 750 Motor Club championships. A very warm welcome to everyone watching along on YouTube. Do get in touch and let us know who you're supporting, and if you do have any information about the drivers, it is going to be very well received, because we needed a bit of information when it came to Jake Hewlett and what was happening in his house, and with the PC dramas that he had last time out in Thruxton. So if you are with any of the drivers tonight, then give us a little insight into how things are going. But as I mentioned, it's turning into a 2-horse race at the head of the field. Jake Hewlett on 218 points leads into round 5 of the championship, just 2 points ahead of the defending champion Trafford King. Dave Martin is 3rd in the standings, a further 15 points back from Trafford King, and then 10 back is Shay Brennan, the young 16-year-old who will be competing in the Swift Sport Challenge later this year. Jackson Carden just 4 points behind Shay, and Jackson Carden, the only driver other than Trafford King and Jake Hewlett to take pole positions so far this season. As you can see, qualifying underway. The low-cost cars heading out onto the circuit. The Locost Championship offers some of the absolute best racing and some of the largest grids you get in the UK. And when you combine them with a circuit like Brands Hatch Indy, which happens to be my absolute favorite in the world, then we are in for a real treat here tonight. Other drivers to look out for, of course, Paul Forsyth, who had 2 podium finishes, his first 2 of the season. In fact, Paul is the driver we're watching right now. Took 2 podium finishes in Thruxton last time out after surviving numerous battles alongside Jackson Carden, Dave Martin and Shay Brennan. They really were the absolute highlight of the Clio action. Jake Hewlett, thankfully, no PC dramas for him at the start of this session, but not attacking this particular lap as they head down to the bottom of Paddock Hill Bend into Hellwoods Hill. And then around the hairpin at Druids. Jake Hewlett, the championship leader. One car going off into the gravel through Druids. Certainly not the optimal line there, but the 1300cc engine just kicking out a little bit there underneath Jake Hewlett as he got on the curbing on the exit of Graham Hill Bend. And then long right-hander as you head through McLaren and then the Clark curve as well. This is where we see various lines being used. Each of them have their strengths and weaknesses, and it's part of the reason why racing at Brands Hatch is such a thrill to watch. So down the Brabham Straight then, and Jake Hewlett, well, despite not exactly pushing on this lap, has still gone fastest. Quite surprising because he was waving a few cars through, but just 69 thousandths of a second it is between Hewlett and Trafford King. Top two in the championship, top two in the standings at the moment. But you can see Trafford King has already found just over a tenth of a second. We're on board with the reigning champion now, down the gears through the Clark curve. And might just pick up a little bit of a slipstream, and I believe that's Paul Forsyth just in front of him. Trafford King, who picked up his first win of the season at Thruxton last time out and absolutely dominated proceedings, taking full advantage of his championship rivals' misfortunes, but it ends up being about a quarter of a second away in the end when he crosses the timing line. So it is not provisional pole as yet, as Jackson Carden splits them, and that is Paul Forsyth in the car just in front, getting very sideways on the way into Druids and ends up exiting stage left, clearing the way for Trafford King to make his way cleanly through Graham Hill Bend. And you see just a little bit of an extension, and drivers really are going to be flirting with danger when it comes to track limits. The curbs are considered an extension of the circuit, but any drivers putting all four wheels on the grass will be reported to race control. So this is Jackson Carden then. Pole position for him in the Carmel Porsche Trophy at Alton Park. That was the second meeting of the season. Fought for victory there, but ended up having a few technical woes that prevented him from being able to really show his full potential. But it is Trafford King who has been able to pip Jake Hewlett on that previous lap by just 23 thousandths of a second. So the margin's getting even narrower here. Carden now about 0.2 of a second away from the provisional pole time, 55.752. This is Shea Brennan in the red car, and it'll be slightly different feeling to the Suzuki Swift Sports that Shea will be driving later on in the year. Of course, 750 Motor Club incredibly proud of this new platform that they've been able to create, a all new series that really redefines what entry-level motorsport and affordable motorsport can be. Car off just in front of Shea, coming down the Cooper Straight. But not something that will have compromised the lap time. And looks like this is an outlap for Shea Brennan as well, just judging by the lap time so far. But well, maybe a trick on the timing there, because it was saying like 1 minute 50 something, but it's fourth fastest for Shea Brennan, 0.3 of a second away from Trafford King's provisional pole time. All drivers out there on the circuit at the moment. Here is Trafford King, provisional pole sitter. And that looks like it's Jake Hewlett just behind him on the road as well. So that latest effort was 0.1 of a second away, but the reigning champion goes on to another lap, and so just about keeping two wheels on the exit curbing through Paddock Hill Bend, and then little lock up on the way into Druids, keeping it tight to the inside, and through the left-hander at Graham Hill Bend. Every single corner on this circuit is an overtaking opportunity. That's what makes racing here so fun. And Trafford King is up on his provisional pole time so far, as Jake Hewlett has gone 1,000th of a second quicker than Trafford King. So it's not Hewlett behind King on the road, similar liveried car, but let's see if Trafford King can usurp that new benchmark time that is 1,000th of a second quicker than what he managed to do earlier on. And no, loses out by quite a bit in the end in that final sector. And so for now, with just over 2 minutes left on the clock, it's Jake Hewlett by the narrowest of margins on pole position. Another little lock up for Trafford King and a big sideways moment. He was doing that deliberately in celebration in Thruxton through the Allard corner, but something tells me that wasn't quite as chauvinistic. Neither was that, running wide on the exit of Graham Hill Bend. And so this lap really isn't going to be the one. Hewlett's gone even quicker now. He's put a mammoth 300ths of a second between himself and his nearest title rival. Coming up to the closing stages of this session now, Trafford King will have 2 more opportunities with the allotted time remaining. And you see that nearly a second away in the end there. Such was the dramas he had on that lap. Andrew Cooper, the car just behind Trafford King. Cooper going up into 6th position. Andrew Cooper, another of the real-world racers in this series, Formula V racer since 2016, but has been on iRacing for the past 3 years or so now. And Jake Hewlett there, still fastest in that white liveried lime yellow trimmed car, but Trafford King is up on Jake Hewlett's provisional pole time by about 3/4 of a tenth. So we're still not looking at much here at all, but this is the part of the circuit where he's been losing out in previous laps. Let's see if he can lower the benchmark. 55.721 to beat for the reigning champion, and again he misses out by 0.3 of a second. So King's really struggling to get the lap together, particularly in that final sector, as this will be the last effort now for the drivers. Only 10 seconds left on the clock. Jackson Carden's brought it into pit lane, so he will go no further than 3rd position. And Jake Hewlett's lowered the benchmark again, 55.677 now, and so it is 75 thousandths of a second that Trafford King needs to find, and he's not finding it on this lap. And so it looks like it is going to be a 3rd pole position of the season for Jake Hewlett. And it looks like he's back on form after a pretty disappointing meeting at Thruxton, and Trafford King has brought it into pit lane. And so Jake Hewlett once again on pole position, unless anyone else can find chunks of time in the dying stages of this qualifying session. Shea Brennan running out a little bit wide on the exit of Graham Hill Bend. Brennan currently 4th fastest, and that has been the slightly demon number for Shea throughout the season. Has narrowly missed out on multiple podium finishes, not least at Thruxton, where finished 4th in all 3 races. Sam Hayes coming up to the timing line. It is 12th for Hayes. Paul Forsyth as well, going from 5th position. And so that is qualifying done, and it is Jake Hewlett once again on pole position, and that is pole for all 3 races. Remember, we don't have the various different grid setups that are based on previous race results or any reverse grid races. That qualifying session sets the grid for all 3 15-minute races tonight, which means we are going to have the top 2 in the championship starting alongside each other for all 3 races tonight, and that is a mouth-watering prospect indeed. Remember, just 2 points separate Jake Hewlett and Trafford King going into this 5th meeting of the season, and Jake Hewlett is certainly on a march to re-establish the championship lead he lost at Thruxton last time out. Now, both of them are, of course, former rivals of the Type R trophy in the 750 Motor Club. Jake Hewlett, champion in his real-world racing debut back in 2022, the same year that Trafford King won the rookie championship as well. But, of course, Jake Hewlett, much more familiar with the sim world, having been part of the Commander Sim Sport team since 2017. had multiple esports titles and World Series participations to his name. Still haven't heard any confirmation of his plans for 2025. He has alluded to the fact that he's weighing up his options and is looking for sponsorship, but of course occupies most of his time now as a driver coach, both in the real and virtual world. Gave up his job as a fiber engineer to do that in recent years. And of course, Trafford King, we expect to be back in the Takiba Type R trophy. Novice champion in 2023 it was, sorry, not in 2022. Has said that he is going for the title, having finished third overall last year. And in fact, it was at Croft where he took his first win. Very much set himself up for a strong season when he won last season's Winter Sim Championship. 12 wins in total, 10 in a row, which of course Jake Hewlett very nearly beat that record with 9 on the trot to kick off the season. But his PC had other ideas last time out. So just waiting for the grid to be set, and in fact it is now. And so we await for the lights to get us underway for round 5 of the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship, powered by Grid Finder. Top 2 in the championship on the front row of the grid. And it is lights out, and a good start made by Jackson Carden from 3rd on the grid. And it looks like has already usurped Trafford King and made his way into 2nd position. In fact, he has. On the way into Paddock Hill Bend, it's Jake Hewlett who leads the 2 similar liveried cars of Jackson Carden and Trafford King following in his wheel tracks. And Paul Forsyth also making up a spot into 4th position ahead of Shea Brennan, who has Andrew Cooper alongside as well, but Brennan holding the inside line for Graham Hill Bend, and so should be able to just about hang on to that position. Plenty flirting with danger on the curbing on the outside of Graham Hill Bend. A bounce and a hop over the curbs for Jackson Carden in 2nd place, and you see they bunch up braking for the Clark curve, and that's the example of the varying lines that we were talking about in qualifying. But Jake Hewlett by couple of car lengths at the end of the first lap. It's a very short and sharp lap here, just 55 seconds at full chat, but side by side between Rory Mallinson and Andrew Cooper, and it is Rory Mallinson in the red car who goes through on the Formula V racer. Mallinson, one of the youngsters in the field, 16-year-old from Cheshire, and in fact it is the experience of Cooper that prevails on the way into Druids. He retakes that 6th position. And this is what I was talking about, with every corner being an overtaking opportunity, because he lunged straight back at him into Graham Hill Bend. Bit of contact further back with Jensen Swift getting a bit roughed up through the left-hander and dropping a couple of spots there, as we see Rory Mallinson still trying to regain that place from Andrew Cooper, who's also one of the 750 Motor Club directors as well as a Formula V racer, and they're side by side out of Clark Curve and onto the Brabham Straight. Rory Mallinson just pulling half a car length ahead as they make their way down the straight, and is now able to fully chop the nose as Jake Hewlett does the fastest lap of the race, leads by nearly 3/4 of a second at the start of lap 3. See, Shea Brennan and Paul Forsyth were trading places going into Druids just in front of this battle, and it looks like Paul Forsyth has come off worse because he's spun round. There was a puff of smoke, and the green and yellow car that he is driving was rather facing the wrong way. So shades of Thruxton there, as Paul Forsyth gave up a podium spot in the first race of that meeting, with an incident through the first couple of corners, but might have been contact there with Shea Brennan that helped him into that spin. So he's dropped down to 7th position, and it's Mallinson and Cooper who have gained as a result of that. Alex Stockton, the 30-year-old from York, trying to run on the inside here of Turner, and just about manages to take 8th place away from Ryan Turner there, former Carter, as there was Mallinson and Cooper still going hammer and tongs through Druids. Forsyth running a little bit wide on the exit of Graham Hill Bend. And now Callum Neve trying to find his way through on the inside of Alex Stockton as well. Stockton, the casual sim racer he described himself as before moving over from the console to the PC. Very experienced with Assetto Corsa. Another fastest lap of the race from Jake Hewlett, as Rory Mallinson and Andrew Cooper continue to do battle. Paul Forsyth going a little bit wider there through that Paddock Hill Bend. And now Cooper on the inside through Druids, side by side through the hairpin. And if Mallinson can keep his foot in there, should have the line on the way into Graham Hill Bend. Still there side by side, and a little bit of contact there forces Andrew Cooper onto the grass, and he comes off much, much worse. That has allowed Paul Forsyth to get onto the back of him as well, not to lose the place, but to get him closer and put pressure on the Formula V racer. Stockton continues to pile pressure. In fact, has lost a place to Callum Neve there, so that's a swap for 9th position. See, Forsyth is mounting the challenge now on Cooper and taking an awful lot of curb and a bit more through Paddock Hill Bend. They reach the bottom at Halewoods Hill, and Cooper's having to go defensive for that 6th place, and I think maybe just locked up there a little bit. Just letting Forsyth know that he is feeling that pressure, but Mallinson isn't really streaking clear of this battle. If anything, Cooper is bringing Forsyth back towards him. So round Surtees and McLaren, and then Clark Curve. You can see where the Grand Prix layout rejoins at Clearways. But for my money, the Indy layout is absolutely unmatched. As exhilarating as the trip through the forest is, don't quite get the same level of wheel-to-wheel racing no matter what is out there on track. So Jackson Carden now just over 2 seconds away from Jake Hewlett, who's absolutely romping clear, and Trafford King isn't exactly going to be mounting enough of a challenge on Jackson Carden for second if he keeps making mistakes like that through Graham Hill Bend. So he was about 3/4 of a second away, and that gap is much closer to a full second now. As, whoa, a dive on the inside into Clark Curve for Andrew Cooper on Mallinson. Mallinson, I think there was a little bit of hip and shoulder between them, and he goes straight back, and Paul Forsyth might fancy having both of them down the Brabham Straight. He's certainly alongside them, and he will have the inside line for Paddock Hill Bend as well. Cooper's certainly the one who's come off worse. Mallinson goes out wide and into the gravel, and so Cooper does end up picking up 1 spot there. Forsyth up 2. Could it be back down 1, though, as Cooper locks up going into Druids. He was on the inside line, but Forsyth has been able to just about consolidate that position. Had a little wiggle on the exit of the corner, but that is now 5th position for Paul Forsyth, so back where he started, in fact. Forsyth, the 42-year-old from Ballyclare in Northern Ireland, started out in Rotax karting just over 20 years ago, and familiar with 7 type machinery, having raced in the bike engine 7s series over in Northern Ireland. But about to lose this spot to Andrew Cooper, who comes back on the inside into Paddock Hill Bend. And once again, we have another change of position there, but Forsyth tries to get the up and under and does get himself the inside line for Druids. Going to be very tight down there. So once again, great racing in the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship powered by Gridfinder. It is Cooper who just is about able to hang on to the position with the inside line through Graham Hill Bend. Let's see what happens when they get into McLaren and Clark. Forsyth hanging back for now. But there is not even half a car length between them. In fact, Forsyth is now alongside coming down the Brabham Straight, and this time he's found himself the inside line for Paddock Hill Bend. We're over half race distance. It's 6 minutes left on the clock, and it's Forsyth now back up into 5th position. Just behind them as well, there was a change of position with Alex Stockton going through on Ryan Turner for 8th position as well, but we'll keep our eyes on the battles further up because Callum Neve is also joining the party. He's only 0.7 of a second away, and with every corner seems to be getting closer and closer while these two continue to squabble. So Cooper, who did race in the 750 Motor Club Sim Championship last year, so best finish of 6th for him, and he could certainly better that if he's able to usurp Forsyth in front of him. But once again, Forsyth has found himself the inside line for Paddock Hill Bend. There's a brave man who goes around the outside of that corner, especially with such a large, deep and inviting gravel trap on the outside there. Still is forced to the outside at Druids, but might have just been able to keep an overlap there. No, Forsyth able to chop the nose going through Graham Hill Bend, but you can see now Callum Neve very much on the scene, and it is just 0.75 of a second that now separate these three cars. So Cooper closes up there. He almost doesn't want to make the move, but Forsyth has a little wiggle through the Clark curve, and that is an open door for Cooper to just waltz on through. Now, has he made that move slightly too early? Because, of course, Forsyth will have the draft and momentum down the Brabham Straight, but the Northern Irishman will be on the outside line, and so Cooper into 5th position now. Starting to see elements of the real-world low-cost racing here as well, which you have to think of like a Moto3 race, an absolute pack racing, and think about when you're going to make your move and think about how it's going to play out on the last lap. You don't want to make the move too early and leave yourself exposed. And so I'm sure that is going to be in the back of their heads as well, because we could see a drag up towards the finish line to determine some of these places as Cooper is continuing to keep his elbows out. Forsyth seems to be really struggling through Surtees there, seem to lose quite a bit of time. Further back, Rory Mallinson pouncing on the inside of Alex Stockton. Remember, Mallinson was in that fight for 5th position earlier on until he had that moment through Paddock Hill Bend, and so this is him on the recovery and getting past Alex Stockton. Rory Mallinson, who is as he just loses the back end going through Paddock Hill Bend. Is that an invitation for Stockton to come back on the inside? Locks up his brakes to Stockton, and Ryan Turner is right in the thick of that as well, and so Mallinson briefly had 8th position there, but he's ended up losing it again with that little wide moment at Paddock Hill Bend, almost running into the back of Stockton. But of course, Mallinson has been testing low-cost machinery in preparation for his real-world racing plans this year. Very nearly contact going through Surtees, and now around McLaren's into Clark curve. He runs out wide, does Mallinson. That allows Ryan Turner to find his way through, and so at the start of the lap, Rory Mallinson was in 8th. He's now in 10th, but there is an opportunity for him to try and take some of those positions back as we're going to run 3 wide down the Brabham Straight and towards Paddock Hill Bend, and it is Ryan Turner who comes out on top, so he's made up 2 places in just a couple of corners there, but Stockton will try and fight back on the exit of the corner and on the way into Druids, again locking up. Side by side for that 8th position, it's Stockton back through. Turner might have another look here on the inside line. Everybody seemingly locking up there, and it's Stockton who comes off worse with a bit of contact And Sam Hayes seemingly arriving a bit too quick on the scene as well. But of course, Mallinson says, thank you very much. I'll have both those places. And he's back up into 8th position. Further up, the battle between Paul Forsyth and Andrew Cooper continues to rage on. They are some 12 seconds behind Shea Brennan, such as their squabble, with only a minute and a half left on the clock. So 2 laps to go for these guys. Side by side through Paddock Hill Bend. Cooper on the inside line in that sort of Golf-esque livery. Forsyth with the seemingly traditional Caterham colours on that car. And around Druids, and he just chopped the nose there of Callum Neve, and that was a slight misjudgment from Paul Forsyth, as Callum Neve had drawn just the slightest little overlap through Druids, and he's ended up in the barriers as a result of that one. So Cooper's got quite a bit of space to play with now, and Callum Neve's up into 6th position. Looks like Forsyth has recovered to 8th position, but here is our race leader now on his final lap. 4.9 seconds to the good over Jackson Carden. So this will be victory number 10 for Jake Hewlett in the 2024-25 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship, powered by Gridfinder. And for Jackson Carden, a 6th podium of the season as well, adding on to his very impressive tally. We might squeeze one more lap out of this, actually. As Hewlett comes up towards the timing line, I think we are going to squeeze one more lap out of it, actually. It's going to be very, very tight. But 5 seconds left on the clock. And yeah, he's over the line with 3 seconds to go. He could have slowed down, waited for that timer to hit 0, and still won the race. Such is his advantage. But we are going to get another lap out of it. So that's one more lap for Alex Stockton and Ryan Turner to sort out their battle for 9th position as well. See Stockton closing out and hoovering up the slipstream down the Brabham Straight. Nothing doing going into Paddock Hill Bend, but Stockton running very, very deep there and almost having a bit of an incident on the final lap of the race there, but it is Ryan Turner who hangs on to the pace. And now here comes Jake Hewlett to meet the checkered flag and take his 10th victory of the season in the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship, powered by Gridfinder. 5.7 seconds ahead of Jackson Carden, who has his 6th appearance on the podium this season, and beating the reigning champion Trafford King, who once again finishes on the rostrum as well. For the 12th time this season, he does still have the most podiums of anyone this season. Shea Brennan in 4th, Andrew Cooper 5th, Callum Neve in 6th, and then Rory Mallinson 7th. It's going to be very, very close between Turner and Stockton for 9th. But it is just Ryan Turner who pips Alex Stockton to the post by, wow, less than half a car length in the end. Fabulous racing once again to kick things off for round 5 of the championship. And so it is Jake Hewlett who once again extends his championship advantage with victory and picking up right where he left off and making up for a very difficult round at Thruxton. And he's extended his championship lead, with Trafford King finishing in 3rd position as well. That's rather helped things. And once again, seems to be that Trafford King and Ray Starts have not been 2 of the easiest melting pots for this season. We've seen King have a few difficulties off the line throughout this season, and that is exactly what Jackson Carden needed in order to usurp the reigning champion there. But 18 laps completed in the end. Only just. Such was the pace of Jake Hewlett. As I say, he could have let the timer go to 0 and still won that race, because he had very nearly 6 seconds over Jackson Carden in the end. So just running through the results then. Jake Hewlett for the 10th time this season on the top step of the podium. Jackson Carden in 2nd, and Trafford King picking up his 12th podium finish of the season in third. Shea Brennan, once again, so near yet so far, in fourth position. Then Andrew Cooper, his best finish in the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship powered by Grid Finder. Callum Neve in sixth position. Then Rory Mallinson recovering to seventh in the end. Paul Forsyth was, of course, in that battle for fifth position with Andrew Cooper, but that late spin there reducing him to eighth place. Ryan Turner in ninth, and Alex Stockton completing the top 10. They were side by side over the line. It was Jensen Swift in 11th, Sam Hayes in 12th, Mark Crawford in 13th, and Simwolf VR, otherwise known as Andy Woodvine, who was 14th and last. There was another X750 Motor Club racer there is Andy Woodvine, the 49-year-old from Northamptonshire, Formula V racer and MR2 racer. I believe the only driver in the field who races with VR. So a reminder of what is coming up after this fifth round of the championship. This is the antepenultimate round of the season. We go to the Donington Park National Circuit in a week's time on the 21st of January for the Radical Club Challenge. I'll be the Radical SR3 representing the series there. And then to round out the season on the 1st of February will be the 116 Trophy at Croft with the BMW 125i. And actually, speaking of the Radicals, of course, some changes coming to the championship because, of course, it used to be known as Bike Sports up until the end of last year, but the Radical Club Challenge, a rebranding of the series in conjunction with Radical Motorsport, that will also introduce the SR1 into the championship in the same specification. You'll find it in the Hagerty Radical Cup UK, but it will be joining the SR3, the PR6, the Club Sport, and the Pro Sport models that you have seen in Bike Sports series in recent years. And I will also remind you about the Swift Sport Challenge as well. Alluded to it earlier on in qualifying because Shea Brennan is competing in it, and it does bring a whole new level to entry level and affordable motorsport. The Mark 1 Swift 1.6 litre car that will be the base with a yellow speed racing kit suspension from Tekiwa. An absolute alignment will also be on site to give equipment and guidance to anybody running their own cars in the paddock, running on Davanti tyres, control tyre for the championship. But let's go back to the action as we get underway for race 2 of the Locost Championship at Brands Hatch. It is Jake Hewlett and Trafford King once again on the front row of the grid, and again a very difficult start from Trafford King on the front row of the grid, and Jackson Carden, as it was in race 1, goes through into second position, and Paul Forsyth also making up a good start again, and as he did in the previous race, getting up into fourth. So it's almost a carbon copy, but this time Jackson Carden looks a little bit more racy against Jake Hewlett, as this is the closest they ran in race 1 as well. So far it is the same order we saw last time out, but Carden seems to be piling on a little bit more pressure in the early stages of this race, as we do have Forsyth in fourth position ahead of Shea Brennan and then Callum Neve. Carden getting a little bit closer under braking for Clark, and going with it's much less than half a car length that separates the top two as we start the second lap of the race. Shea Brennan trying to take fourth position back from Paul Forsyth, and side by side for the lead very nearly going into Paddock Hill Bend, but Shea Brennan going back into fourth position, so lost that spot off the line, takes it back almost straight away. And is this Jackson Carden going for the lead on the inside of Druids? Yes, it is. So this is the most pressure Jake Hewlett has been under all night long, and Jackson Carden has got half a car length of lead coming out of Druids, but Jake Hewlett will have the line going into Graham Hill Bend. That does not disturb Jackson Carden one iota, and Hewlett was very generous with the amount of track space he left young Carden on the outside there. Carden right round the outside of Surtees and then into McLaren's, takes the lead of the race, but Hewlett takes it straight back under brakes. Did they just bang wheels as they met at the apex of the corner? But the lead has changed hands, what, 2 or 3 times in this lap alone. Fantastic stuff. And that, of course, is keeping Trafford King and Shea Brennan right in the mix as well. Less than a second covers the top 4 as they cross the timing line to start lap 3. Carden with a wider line through Paddock Hill Bend, trying to get the run towards Woods Hill as Hewlett recognised the attack that came from Carden on the previous lap, covers the inside line into Druids, but Jackson Carden doesn't need it. He's gone right round the outside and still has half a car length alongside the championship leader. So when they get into Graham Hill Bend, he will have the line, and he was equally fair with the amount of space left on the outside on the exit of the corner. And again, they run side by side going into Surtees, and I think Hewlett did just nudge the right rear corner there of Jackson Carden, but Carden's got very nearly a full car length in front now, but Hewlett will have a tighter line on the way down to the Brabham Straight, and that means that Jackson Carden can't quite chop across the front of Hewlett's car, and so Hewlett will have the inside line going into Paddock Hill Bend. Once again, Shea Brennan comes up the inside and takes third position away from Trafford King. So Shea Brennan now up into third, and again swapping places here for the lead of the race as Carden gets down the inside. Hewlett was very aggressive on the turn-in towards Druids, not leaving Carden much space there at all, and Hewlett will just have half a car length of lead on the exit of the corner and consolidates it going into Graham Hill Bend. But we've got the view here of Jackson Carden in second position, mirror full of Shea Brennan as well, the future Suzuki Swift Sport racer, but also right on the back of the Kwanda Sim Sport driver as well, and Takiwa Taipar Trophy champion. This is the calmest it's been between them. He spent the entire lap looking at the back of that car, but he is right on the number plate as they make their way back onto the Brabham Straight. Hewlett will hug the right-hand side, hug the pit wall all the way down the Brabham Straight as it's Shea Brennan with the fastest lap of the race, 55.9. Carden thought about going around the outside of Paddock Hill Bend there, but then was also quite aware, I'm sure, of Brennan in his mirrors. He has now got the inside line for Druids. Is it enough? Because Hewlett was very, very good on the brakes there. Maybe slightly too good because he's run out wide. Has that lost him the lead? No, not quite. Trafford King tries to find his way back through into the podium places as well. A lunge on the inside, contact with Shea Brennan as well. That sends Brennan out way, way wide onto the grass. So Brennan losing out the podium spot there as Carden gets back on the inside into Surtees on the race leader. Still, there is just a little bit of an overlap as they break for Clark. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And I think Carden had just a little bit of oversteer on the exit of the corner. And that's the biggest gap we've seen between them all race long. That is a couple of car lengths now that Hewlett's just been able to pull clear, and when it comes to Jake Hewlett, a couple of car lengths really all he needs. Slight break in the action gives us a chance to look at what's happening further back as Paul Forsyth and Andrew Cooper and Callum Neve are once again doing battle over fifth position as they were in race one. It is Paul Forsyth in the green and yellow car that is just ahead of the Gulf liveried Andrew Cooper for now. But I wouldn't expect that to stay the same throughout the remaining 9.5 minutes or so of this race, as all three of them run out quite a bit wide. Look how close Carden's been able to get on this lap to the back of Jake Hewlett. Talking about the couple of car lengths that Hewlett had managed to pull clear, it seems like Carden's been able to pull them back again as Cooper tried around the outside, right back with the leaders. Carden hoovering up the slipstream. It's less than half a car length. He pulls out to the outside, banking on Hewlett going a little bit defensive into Paddock Hill Bend so that he can try and get the up and under. Hewlett is wise to it. Carden doing the fastest lap of the race last time around. Absolutely level pegging as they break for Druids. But again, Hewlett hanging on to the inside line very nicely indeed. We're back on board with the second place driver. Wider line through the Graham Hill Bend, and so when they head onto the Cooper Straight, he should have some momentum. There's not an awful lot he can do with it, but there was just about a low-cost sized hole on the left-hand side that he's been able to drive through, turning it into Surtees. Carden, has he got the lead? Well, he's got a few meters of it, but he can't really do anything with it as Hewlett still had the inside line going into McLaren. Well, these two have put on an absolutely brilliant show here. This is some momentum that Carden's got here. Pulls out to the outside, was just about ahead of the timing line, I think. But can't do anything with it when they get into Paddock Hill Bend. Lovely little undercut there. He will have the inside line for Druids, will Jackson Carden. And this might be the lead change once again. Hewlett hanging it out around the outside at a wall of death because he knows that will give him the line into the next left-hander at Graham Hill Bend. Trafford King and Shea Brennan got the best view in the house of this superb battle. And once again, the up and under. This is why racing at Brands Hatch is so brilliant, because it's up and under, it's up and change. And Jackson Carden now finally with a full car length of lead, but he has just left a small enough gap there. Oh, Shea Brennan into the back of Trafford King in their battle for third position as well, but absolutely side by side for the lead of the race. We're only halfway through, and I've lost count of how many times these two have swapped positions. Once again, level pegging as they cross the timing line, and again, Carden finds himself on the outside line for Paddock Hill Bend. Another lovely up and under. He tried this on the previous lap. It didn't fully work out for him. Hewlett making a dart for the apex, but he finds Jackson Carden alongside him. He's got half a car length ahead of him. I mean, at this point, it could just come down to a drag to the finish line. And I'm sure that's exactly what Carden is potentially preparing for, making sure he's got enough momentum down the Brabham straight to be ahead when they reach the checkered flag. I'm sure Jake Hewlett is well aware of that as well. So round Clark, and it is the momentum for Jackson Carden once again, and again pulls out to the outside. It's a carbon copy of these previous two laps so far. Does he get the up and under again? Yes, he does. Oh, no, I think he went into the back of Jake Hewlett there, who had to gather the car up. And so that's rather compromised the run for Carden, who, for the first time in a few laps, did not have the tighter line going into Druids. And Hewlett runs out so slightly wide onto the AstroTurf. Again, Carden with the wider lines. They've got to be careful because this is starting to invite Trafford King into the mix as well. But again, Carden finds himself with the inside line for Surtees. Oh, so nearly contact between the top two. This has been incredible and fair and respectful racing, because look at the tiniest of gaps that they've been able to wiggle their way through. I think there was a little bit of front bumper to rear bumper contact there, and now Carden's got himself the inside line. I'm not sure if that was a dodgy gear change or something, but suddenly Hewlett managed to find some good momentum, or if Carden just backed out of it, didn't fancy having the inside line for Paddock Hill Bend. But honestly, it feels like these two have spent more time side by side than they actually have line astern in this race. So Carden trying to get the run down the Cooper Straight once again. This is the move he's preferred, but not one that's paid off so far. Less than 5 minutes to go in this race. But surely these two have got to start thinking about how they're going to be positioning themselves for the last lap, because so far Carden's only been able to have a proper lead for a few meters. Side by side for third behind them as well. You can see in the mirror of Jackson Carden that Shea Brennan has just been able to get past Trafford King once again. So another change for the rostrum positions, but we keep our eyes glued to this lead battle, which is absolutely enthralling. And now Carden with the inside line for Druids once again. Now, has he been able to draw a bit more of a lead this time around? Because Jake Hewlett seemed to go a little bit wide there, but Hewlett will still have the line going into Graham Hill Bend. How much is that going to favour him? Because the momentum is with Carden. He runs out a little bit wide, couple of wheels on the grass there. Does it matter, though? Can he pull clear? Yes, he does. He's pulled a full car length ahead when they got into Surtees. He leaves the door open again for Jake Hewlett, and Hewlett walks straight through it. Carden with the line on the outside. Who would have the better momentum here? Well, Hewlett's got the shorter run. Carden maybe with a bit more momentum, and if that was the last lap, then that wouldn't have gone at all to plan for Jackson Carden. Look how close Shea Brennan is as well now. And perhaps Brennan can pick up their first podium since the opening meeting of the season with the 5 Club Racing MX5 Cup at Anglesey. But Hewlett back to the lead. Carden trying to take it back again through Druids. Brennan fancied a run through there as well for second place. Top 4 cars. Absolutely nothing separating them as it stands. And Hewlett again a little wider than Carden, but Carden's not going straight for the inside line. Again, they run side by side through Surtees. Carden favouring that outside line around McLaren as they round the Clark curve, make their way back onto the Brabham straight. It is Jake Hewlett back into the lead. Carden with momentum again, but it's just under half a car length that separates them when they get across the timing line. Trying to go all the way around the outside of Paddock Hill Bend now is Jackson Carden. Had to gather out the car a little bit there, not used to being on that bit of the racetrack. Side by side into Druids again. Shea Brennan being rather patient there in third position, just spying an opportunity potentially in the closing 2 minutes of this race. Oh, that was a lot of curb for Carden, and I don't think that worked out too well for him. Didn't quite get the same momentum he was used to. So into McLaren once again. His top four cars, less than a second separating them. Less than 2 minutes to go on the clock as well. So Carden hoovering up the slipstream once again. Jake Hewlett hugging the pit wall on the right-hand side as they get into Paddock Hill Bend. A bit of curb there for Hewlett. Carden with a bit of momentum, but Hewlett comes across to cover the move and bags himself the inside line. Traffic King tried to take third position away from Shea Brennan as well. He's on the inside of Druids, and the reigning champion is back through. So Brennan demoted back to fourth. But crucially, they've barely lost anything. They're still within a car length of the lead battle. I think, again, it's going to be very close as to whether we squeeze out one more lap in this one. I'm sure that's something they're going to be judging. So Carden on the inside very nearly drew an overlap there. And I think, yes, we will now be going on to the final lap of the race. 54 seconds left on the clock. And so with one lap to go, it's side by side again for third position with Shea Brennan back on the inside down the Brabham straight. But for the lead of the race, it's once again Jackson Carden to the outside line on Jake Hewlett. Tries to go around the outside of Paddock Hill Bend and runs out a little bit wider than we're used to seeing him. And there's a little bit of traffic they might have to contend with on this lap as well. Side by side for the lead, side by side for third as well, as Shea Brennan tries to reclaim third position from the reigning champion. They run side by side with King being squeezed up onto the curbing. King will have the inside line going into Graham Hill Bend. What's Jackson Carden doing in second position? The top two run out just a little bit wide and kick up a bit of dust. Shea Brennan seems to have consolidated that third place spot, but how's it going to pan out on the run towards the checkered flag? Carden runs out very, very wide and tries to get the sweep in. It could be a drag to the finish line as the traffic stays to the left-hand side, but Jake Hewlett, I think he's just done enough to hang on and takes a sensational victory in race 2 in round 5 of the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship, powered by Grid Finder. Possibly his closest one ever. Absolutely sensational stuff with Jackson Carden just missing out in the end, and Shea Brennan on the podium for the first time since the first race of the season in Anglesey. What a race! Wow, that was absolutely sensational stuff, and Jake Hewlett just hanging on. I think it was his momentum through the last corner that really made the difference in the end. And so that is victory number 11 now for Jake Hewlett, and has now matched Trafford King's podium record for the season as well, both on 11, with King just missing out on the podium on the last lap of the race to Shea Brennan. It was race 1 in the first meeting of the season in the 5 Club Racing MX5 Cup at Anglesey that we last saw Shea Brennan on the podium. But that was absolutely a sensational race between Jackson Carden and Jake Hewlett. Honestly, they spent more time side by side than they did line astern in that one. And that is what happens when you combine the Locost Championship, an absolutely sensational package for racing, and a circuit like Brands Hatch Indy as well, where every single corner is an overtaking opportunity. And if you want to see more racing like that in the real world, then check out the Locost Championship. Head to the website 750 Motor Club, 750mc.co.uk for more of the information. as well. We have people in the chat who would love to know how to get involved with this. So we are coming up to the end of this current season, but we do anticipate that the 750 Motor Club Winter Sim Championship will be back later in the year. Last year we ran a summer event as well, so just keep an eye on the 750 Motor Club socials, or sign up to the newsletter at 750mc.co.uk in order to keep abreast of what is happening. If you are a real world driver as well, maybe check out some of the championships as well, because they are absolutely fine and dandy, and some of the biggest grids you will see across UK motorsport. Plenty of drivers very happy for Shay Brennan as well. Lots of support for Shay in the chat, and so absolutely wonderful to see. So I'll just run you through the rest of the results from that one. So Jake Hewlett for the 11th time this season, victorious, with Jackson Carden picking up his 7th podium finish of the season. Shay Brennan, their second. Trafford King just missing out on the podium in 4th. Paul Forsyth up to 5th position in the end, ahead of Andrew Cooper, winning out on that battle. Callum Neve in 7th. Rory Mallinson in 8th, of course, future low-cost racer. Sam Hayes in 9th position. Mark Crawford in 10th. Jensen Swift in 11th. Ryan Turner in 12th. Alex Stockton in 13th. And Simwolf VR. Now, Rory Mallinson mentioned that he is testing low-cost machinery in anticipation of joining the championship for this year. The 16-year-old from Chester has been racing in grass tracks in the Junior Saloon Championship and is a race winner there, despite having been some 10 years younger than most of the people he was racing. Very much looking forward to seeing how young Rory gets on with the season ahead. Also, plenty of other drivers with real world 750 Motor Club experience, but plenty of karters in the field as well. Callum Neve, we mentioned him a few times, the 25-year-old from Stockton-on-Tees, who recently made the switch from the British Indoor Karting Championship, a regional finalist there, and started pro karting in September and taking part in his first online league event. Catch up with some of the news as well. A reminder that registrations for the 750 Motor Club have opened, or sorry, will open on the 27th of January, I should say, and then race entries open on the 10th of February as well. But we're already back to the grid and ready to get underway for the third and final race of the night to round out round 5 of the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship, powered by Grid Finder. It is the Locost Championship. Will we see another challenge to Jake Hewlett from Jackson Carden? He's got to beat Trafford King off the line first, of course. Jake Hewlett, who has once again re-established his championship lead with 2 victories so far tonight, one by a significantly narrower margin than the other, but he has his nearest title rival starting alongside him once again on the front row of the grid, with Trafford King, the reigning champion, in 2nd position, Jackson Carden in 3rd, Shay Brennan in the red car after their podium finish in race number 2, starting in 4th, and Paul Forsyth in the green and yellow car that starts the 3rd row of the grid. Hear the revs rising in the background. Jake Hewlett, the Tequila Type R Trophy champion, alongside the novice champion from 2023 of the same series. And we're just waiting for the lights to come on. Not sure if there are any stragglers on their way into the new server. Lights being flashed, indicating we're here and ready to go, and now everyone is as well. The final race of the night in round 5 of the championship is about to get underway, and again a decent start from Jake Hewlett and another good start from Jackson Carden as well, who manages to beat Trafford King once again to the first corner and into Paddock Hill Bend. It's Jake Hewlett who leads, Jackson Carden in second, Trafford King in at third, and once again it is Paul Forsyth who's been able to beat Shea Brennan off the line. We often see this in the real world racing at Brands Hatch Indy, where the right hand side of the track is a bit more favourable owing to the undulations around there, but Brennan already trying to take that position back, but makes contact with Forsyth, and a couple other cars get collected in that as well. Very messy start at Graham Hill Bend. That has created a massive gap for the top 3 to pull away into, and so it's Rory Mallinson, the future low-cost racer, who has emerged in 4th position in all of that, with Callum Neve in 5th position, and Paul Forsyth going around the outside of Mark Crawford to try and hang on to 6th position as well. I'll go side by side across the line, but the leaders already making their way into Paddock Hill Bend, and Jackson Carden is once again mounting the pressure on Jake Hewlett, and Trafford King is going with them. Carden to the outside line into Druids, and this looks like it's going to be another very tight fight between young Carden and the championship leader. See Callum Neve mounting some pressure on Rory Mallinson for that 4th place spot. You see the gap between the top 3 and the rest of the field owing to that incident at Graham Hill Bend on the opening lap of the race. I think it was Andrew Cooper who was the one who got caught up and spinning off the road as a result of that, because he's now in last place as the Formula V racer. Paul Forsyth hanging on to 7th position just behind them as well. Trafford King doing the fastest lap of the race in 3rd position. Top 3 separated by half a second. Looks like Carden's going for the lead on the inside into Druids Bend. Again, Hewlett hanging it out around the outside as he did so many times in race 2. And just manages to hang on to the lead. But this time, Carden's not really able to get the same up and under through Graham Hill Bend, but he still gets excellent drive off of the left-hander. This is the part of the circuit where Carden has seemingly been unbeatable, but now we head into the part of the track where Hewlett seems to be untouchable, and Trafford King in that similar liveried car trying to get on the inside, but it's absolutely bumper to bumper between the top 2. So again, Hewlett will hug the right-hand side of the racetrack. If there was any more asphalt to the right-hand side and up towards the pit wall, he'd be using it. So Carden to the outside into Paddock Hill Bend. Tries to get the up and under as he did so many times, but Hewlett practically blocking off the exit of the corner. Almost came to a stop by the looks of it, trying to stop Carden from getting himself the inside line for this next right-hander at Druids. So they still run line astern. Less than a car length separating them. As we see it again, Carden getting excellent drive off of Graham Hill Bend. We've got an onboard view, and look how much he closes up through Surtees. He tries the wider line into McLaren. Tries to get some up and under, tries to get some momentum onto the Brabham Straight. See again, hoovering up the slipstream, and whoa, was that a bit of a brake check there? I mean, the brake lights didn't come on. Maybe just a slightly slower gear change for Jake Hewlett, because he definitely seemed to slow up quite drastically there. To the outside again goes Jackson Carden at Druids Hill Bend. Again, it doesn't work for him as Hewlett seems to be the master of defending into Druids. But again, this is the part of the circuit where Carden has been faster than anyone else by the looks of it. He always gets excellent drive out of Graham Hill Bend and great speed into Surtees once again. But then we head again into the part of the track where Hewlett has seemingly more of a deft touch on the brakes. Oh, but Carden's got a much better run around the Clark curve this time, and he's found himself the inside line for Paddock Hill Bend. There's very little separating them at all as they head towards the right-hander, but Hewlett much later on the brakes. There is a car width on the inside, and Carden drives through it, and he should still have the inside line for Druids as they go under the Palmer Sport Bridge. And Hewlett again, wall of deathing it around the outside. Got a bit more momentum on his favour this time, but he is still going to have to go a little bit defensive into Graham Hill Bend. And that is just going to improve Carden's run down the Cooper Straight even more. Trafford King must be loving seeing all this, but also sort of slightly ruin the fact that he can't really get involved too much. Just not enough space for him to mount a serious attack. He's got to wait for one of them to make a mistake, I'm sure, as Carden again to the outside. Is he going to tuck back in behind that? Yep, just slots himself in between the top two in the championship. Jackson Carden, this is very akin to what we saw from Carden in Alton Park, where it was some equipment gremlins that prevented him from really mounting the challenge to Jake Hewlett. Now we're seeing what Carden is made of. Oh, Trafford King switching from one side to the other and wrestling that car in the braking zone. He's been able to draw alongside with Jackson Carden into Druids, but couldn't really do anything with it. Carden's got to be so careful here. He is in the unenviable position of attacking for the race lead while having to defend second place as well. So line astern through McLaren's and around the Clark curve, trying to put the power down and get the momentum onto the Brabham straight. Again, Hewlett hugging the right-hand side of the racetrack. Here comes Jackson Carden to the outside. And again, this is just so akin to what we saw in race 2, where Hewlett was able to prevail by less than a car length. Carden again to the outside. Trafford King not as close as he was on the previous lap, so less of a concern to Carden. Trying up the inside into Graham Hill Bend for once there was Carden. Now he's sort of broken the formation of what he's done on previous laps. That's put Trafford King right on his back bumper and created just a bit more of a gap. It's closer to 2 car lengths now when they headed through Surtees between himself and Jake Hewlett. Ryan Turner and Paul Forsyth squabbling over at 6th position, slightly further back, as Turner gets himself the run on the inside. The Carter and hopeful future track day trophy driver Turner on the inside. Shea Brennan doing the fastest lap of the race in 5th position last time around, as that's a big moment there for Forsyth, and Turner goes through into 6th position, and Jensen Swift might have Forsyth on the inside there as well. Into Druids, not quite, I don't think managed to get the move done. In fact, he did not. So Forsyth just recovering as Turner runs out a little bit wide the exit of Druids. 7 seconds, the gap between Rory Mallinson in 4th and Trafford King in 3rd position. So that's certainly a sizable gap that the top 3 managed to pull away. Again, a bit of help from the Paul Forsyth and Shea Brennan incident on the opening lap of the races. It's now Jackson Carden in 2nd position, who's done the fastest lap of the race at the end of lap number 9. It's only 4/10 separating the top 10. Is there track limits for the grass? Asked Robert Blackstone. Yes, there is. The curbs are considered an extension of the track. If you put all 4 wheels on the grass, that is considered track limits. So Andrew Cooper, oh no, second bit of contact for Andrew Cooper there, as I think that was Sam Hayes he made contact with. Yes, it was. Callum Neve goes through and picks up 2 positions there. As Andrew Cooper on the recovery after getting caught up in that Brennan and Forsyth incident on the opening lap of the race. But it's not going too well for the Formula V racer at the moment. Shea Brennan and Rory Mallinson annoyingly in seemingly identical cars, but Brennan on the inside around the Clark curve. Brennan, after a 2nd podium appearance of the season, now trying to recover after that lap 1 incident, and it is absolutely side by side going into Paddock Hill Brend. It's Brennan on the inside, and Mallinson has a big swapper going through the first corner and ends up yielding the spot anyway. So that's Brennan back up into fourth position. Now, Jake Hewlett has been able to pull quite a bit of margin here while we've been looking at other battles. 0.8 of a second to Jackson Carden. I wonder, it mentioned that slight break of the formation, that slight change in what he was doing through Graham Hill Bend a couple of laps ago, had just given Hewlett a couple of car lengths, and as you said earlier, that's all he really needs, and the gap seems to have exacerbated since then. Paul Forsyth also on the recovery here on the inside of Ryan Turner, and that was fastest lap of the race from Jake Hewlett as well, so the gap now up to 1 second, and Hewlett looking a little bit more comfortable as he did in race 1, as Forsyth takes 6th position away from Ryan Turner into Paddock Hill Bend. Forsyth used to racing similar machinery in Northern Ireland, the bike-engined Sevens Championship that he started racing in 2007 in a self-prepared car. Since then has been very accustomed to sprints and hill climbing, and did his first esports series last year, the Caterham Racing Sim Championship, so again should be rather familiar with this type of machinery. So checking back in with the leaders, 1.5 seconds is Jake Hewlett's lead now, but Trafford King hasn't really left the tail of Jackson Carden either, and I'm sure Trafford King will try to minimise the damage that Jake Hewlett is doing. Remember, King was only 2 points away from Hewlett in the point standings going into tonight's racing. It's going to be a little bit bigger than that after 2 wins for Hewlett, especially after King fell off the podium on the last lap at race 2 to Shea Brennan. See if King can mount a challenge, as it's another fastest lap of the race from Jake Hewlett, continuing to stretch his legs out to the front of the field and looking more and more comfortable. 1.9 seconds now his advantage, as Callum Neve getting closer to the back of Alex Stockton. Callum Neve, the Carter. Versus Stockton, the 30-year-old from York. And it is Neve on the inside into Druids and back up into 9th position. 2 minutes left on the clock now. Just demoting Stockton there. Stockton, who started sim racing with 5 years of experience on Project Cars 2 on the Xbox, before making the switch over to iRacing and Assetto Corsa on PC. So that was another fastest lap of the race for Jake Hewlett last time round. Gap now 2 seconds. And Trafford King still not really able to mount a serious challenge for second place on Jackson Carden. But just over a minute left on the clock. Here is Trafford King, and they are entering the traffic as well. Oh, Carden's getting really bulked up here. This could be an opportunity for Trafford King. Oh, no, he ends up getting caught by the traffic himself and ends up on the bit of the circuit where the Grand Prix loop rejoins the main circuit. Now, King rather expertly gets it spinned round and manages to rejoin without losing a place at all, but his hopes of second position have absolutely vanished as a result of that. But a very nice recovery there from the reigning champion, who just got tagged by Simwolf VR, I believe it was. The car being lapped, Andy Woodvine. Close battle here between Ryan Turner, Callum Neve and Jensen Swift. It is at the front of this queue. So Ryan Turner there in the bright yellow car, but it's Callum Neve on the inside of Paddock Hill Bend. Quite able to do anything with that, I don't think. Well, still has the inside line. and it is Turner who ends up running out a little bit wide, but Jensen Swift is the car lead in the queue. The 16-year-old from Darwin, the Carter, who's doing a good job of holding this lot off. And the clock has just hit 0, and Jake Hewlett makes it another clean sweep of victories in round 5 of the 750 Motor Club, powered by Grid Finder. VRS Winter Sim Championship. Round 5, the Locost Championship. It is a clean sweep for Jake Hewlett, and Jackson Carden picks up yet another podium position. It's second in all 3 races for Jackson Carden, and Trafford King picking up a second podium finish of the night as well. So it continues to be that every round so far, it has been one driver who has won all 3 races, and Jake Hewlett very much now re-establishing his championship lead after another dominant night. Had quite a few close calls in there with Jackson Carden, but 2 races looking rather more comfortable for him there, and so should be looking very good in the championship. We said it was looking more like a 2-horse race. Well, with 2 rounds to go in the championship, Trafford King needs to stop the march of Jake Hewlett in order to keep the championship alive for the final meeting of the season in the 116 trophy at Croft. Now, that is all the action from round 5 of the championship. Just waiting to see if we're going to hear from Jake Hewlett for a quick interview. Hopefully we will, because I definitely want to get his thoughts on race number 2, especially because that was really one of the best races I've ever seen, even though 2 of those races looked rather more comfortable for him. And so a reminder that in a week's time, we will have the penultimate round of the championship with the Radical Club Challenge at Donington Park, racing on the national layout on the 21st of January, and then the 116 trophy at Croft to round out the season. But Jake Hewlett joins us in the virtual commentary box now. And Jake, it's like the first 3 meetings of the season all over again.
That was exciting, wasn't it? Jesus Christ.
Right, I have to ask you about race 2 and that insane battle with Jackson Carden, because honestly, it was you spent more time side by side in that race than line astern.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, massive congratulations to all the podium as always. Massive congratulations to Jackson. It's been a long time since we've had a race like that. Not me and him in general, just in general. To have a race with somebody, there was some nudges and you had to hold on to it, but it was all just respectful, clean, hard racing. There weren't like any intentional nudges as such. That was just that's what everyone signs up for, right?
It seemed like he had a bit of an edge on you down the Cooper Straight, the exit of Graham Hill Bend, down the Cooper Straight, and then into Surtees. But you seem to really dominate the braking zone at McLaren and then round the Clark curve as well.
Yeah, so for whatever reason, like I always knew what he was going to do at Paddock Hill, say for example, like with the cutback and then into Druids, if you like. I was obviously stronger into Druids, and I always knew he was going to do it, but I just couldn't get the car pointed soon enough, to cover that inside. But it was so nice to just be able to trust somebody, like just again, massive respect to Jackson. He put on a great show there. I think track limits were keeping some people in contention. Without, there was some big track limit usage there from a few people. But look, great race, really, really fun. Massive respect again to Jackson for keeping it just super clean. Like I think in race 2 there was 4 of us in the end, like real close knit together. I think it may have been Shay and Trafford, maybe.
Yeah.
As well.
It was.
Yeah, like congrats to them too as well. Like they showed really good patience from behind, and yeah, that was really, really cool, wasn't it?
It was honestly, it's got to be the highlight of any 750 Motor Club Sim Series event we've ever done. That was absolutely superb. Are you looking forward to the Radicals next week?
Oh, well, there we go. I guess we know now. We've not had an well, at least I didn't know up until now about them, because they were unannounced.
Oh, you should listen to the broadcast more, because I've been spewing it out all week.
Well, I can only do so many things at once, right? I was hanging on for dear life there, as you can see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sounds really good. What was the circuit?
I feel like I shouldn't say now.
Yeah. I mean, either way, look,
Yeah,
it's going to
well,
be good fun. If we can have anything like that again, then yeah, I'm all up for it. Obviously, some real technical difficulties and a bit of a crazy week last week, but we move forward. It's about how you bounce back, and I think race 1 there we showed that we've bounced back.
absolutely, certainly making up for the disappointment of Thruxton. So, well, Jake, it's been absolutely wonderful having this quick chat with you, and it's been even better commentating on the fantastic action you've helped to provide us tonight.
I'm glad I could make it an easier commentary for you. I'm sure it was really, really good, and thank you to you guys for obviously putting on the show. 750 Motor Club for obviously arranging it, Grid Finder as well, and then just a thank you to some of my personal sponsors, Mill Street Motors at Europa Crash Centre as well. And look, if anyone wants to find out more about me, at Jake Hewlett92, please on the Instagram. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to teach you all things motorsport.
Yeah, any further ideas about what you're going to be doing this year?
There are some developments. There are some developments. We'll be in and around 750 Motor Club. That's not to say I might be in it. I might not. But we'll certainly be in and around the paddock at 750 Motor Club. There's some other stuff going. All I can say is it's big. It's exciting. If you are a potential sponsor, just get in touch and we'll talk more. I think everyone will find it pretty exciting.
Brilliant. Well, that is certainly a great teaser that you're leaving us hanging on. So we look forward to hearing what all this is going to come to later in the year. Jake, thanks very much for coming and having a chat with us.
Thanks again, as always, guys. Have a good evening.
Cheers, Jake. And that rounds up all the action from round 5 of the 750 Motor Club VRS Winter Sim Championship, powered by Grid Finder. We'll see you next week for the Radical Club Challenge.